Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 Million by 1 Million Strategy Roundtable for Entrepreneurs. 1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual incubator accelerator in the world. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million in revenue and beyond, build $1 trillion in global GDP and 10 million jobs. Now, in support of that mission, we've been doing these free mentoring sessions for a long time. This is our 258 sessions. You can imagine how much work has gone into this, and Maureen Kelly, who's been producing all of these programs, have been really busy behind the scenes pulling all of these together. The event is being recorded, so many of you who have been here before know that if you live tweet the show, you need to use hashtag 1M1M. And our two Twitter handles are @1M and @SRAMANA. And our YouTube channel is 1M1M Roundtables. Now, 1M1M Roundtables is a channel where you will find recordings of all prior 1M1M Roundtables. So if you have missed one and you would like to catch up on it, each time, actually, of late, since last September, we have had a special guest almost every time. So there's a lot of interesting material to catch up on, and of course the presentations themselves. Now, these are the call-in instructions. I will put this slide up when we are ready for call-in. We're not ready for call-in yet, but this slide will come back up when we are ready. But do prepare your questions. We will have time for Q&A. Now, in our continued celebration of the Entrepreneur Journey's $1 Billion Unicorns book, which is the 12th book in the Entrepreneur Journey series, which was first launched in the fall of 2008. So, over the last 7 years, we've done 12 books as part of this series, and we've hit on different topics, but always with the same format of case study-based learning. You are learning from entrepreneurs who have done it before and who have interesting perspectives and advice to offer. So to celebrate today, we have a guest, Sid Banerjee, CEO and co-founder of Clarabridge. Sid and I met a while ago when he participated in one of our thought leadership series, and today I invited him to learn more about what has been the journey with Clarabridge and share it with you. I'm sure we'll learn a lot from Sid today. Welcome, Sid. We are very glad that you could make it today.
Thank you, SRAMANA. It's great to talk to you today, too.
Is Sid on camera? Is the camera working? I don't see him. Maureen?
Should be on.
Here we go.
Can you see me? Okay, there we go.
Just wanted
Hello,
to make
everybody.
sure. Terrific. So, Sid, let's actually start with introducing our audience to Clarabridge. Tell us what you do. What's the Clarabridge story?
Sure, happy to do that. So just a very quick kind of overview of the company. Clarabridge was started about 7.5 years ago, and our core solution that we offer is we've developed a big data solution that helps companies, typically very consumer-centric or large B2B companies, collect and analyze and digest a wide variety of customer experiences and customer feedback. The typical Clarabridge customer will plug into our solution all of their customer chats, emails, social media posts, even interactions that happen when agents talk to customers over the phone or over various new types of technologies like live chat or video conferencing. And we use that information applying text analytics and sentiment analytics to help identify things like what makes a customer happy, what makes them loyal, what issues are they having with a product or a service, and how can a company improve their customer support or customer sales functions to drive up customer loyalty and customer satisfaction. What we like to say is we really help companies become more empathetic to customer needs so that they can develop better, more profitable, more loyal relationships with those customers.
So you said you've been in business for 7.5 years now. What was the early journey like? So how did you get the company off the ground? And I know you're not doing this in Silicon Valley, you're doing it in Virginia, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah, so the Virginia story actually came partly because of my history before starting Clarabridge. I worked for about 9 years also here in the East Coast with a company called MicroStrategy, and they were one of the first generation of business intelligence vendors alongside. Today, the competitors in the space would include companies like Tableau and ClickTech, but back in the 90s and early 2000s, there was a number of companies like MicroStrategy, Business Objects, Cognos, that were really in the business of helping companies collect and analyze structured data, sales data, finance data, ERP data. And I was involved in helping to build that company and also work with a large number of customers on products and service integration and even improving the core platform. When we started Clarabridge, the original vision was looking at what had happened in traditional data analytics. The original vision was that if we could help companies not just tame and analyze structured data, but make sense of unstructured data, data that isn't in a spreadsheet or a database, but data that's in a document or a conversation, that we could help businesses understand not just what's happening, but what might happen because of a customer's intent or emotional state or suggestions. If a customer says to you, I'm not going to shop with you again unless you fix these problems, I want to be able to tease out those insights and help a company fix the problems that customers perceive. So we built the product to do BI, business intelligence for text, but we weren't quite sure what our ideal market might be. So in the early days, and this is not uncommon for a startup, we tried to sell the product to a number of different types of markets. We went to lawyers to help them understand how to do analysis of legal documents. We went to doctors and hospitals to try to do analysis of clinical trial data. We even went to government agencies in the regulatory and intelligence spaces to see if we could help them mine all kinds of unstructured data that they collect from both private and public sources. And while the product could do all those things, what we realized after about a year of testing different markets was that the market that seemed to have the most interest and that could create the most value and that we could sell our software in the most efficient way, that market was customer-centric analysis, typically for large companies, banks, retailers, healthcare companies, technology companies, and consumer goods companies. And so we really, at a high level, we iterated, right? You kind of, one of my early investors told me this a few years later. He said, Sid, I didn't know what you were going to do with this product, but you seemed like a smart guy and you had smart people working for you. So I gave you money to figure out how you were going to make money. And that's effectively what we did for the first 2 years of the company's history.
So you built the product first and then went to figure out which customers were going to buy the product.
That's right. And that's a little bit different than how some companies get started, but it was the approach that worked for us.
Yeah, it's an approach that doesn't work very often because it's actually, investors don't give you money to figure out typically. I think you were very lucky to have investors who were willing to give you money to figure out to iterate on where it was going to go.
Right.
So in terms of that process of iterating and figuring out where there was pull for the customers, from the customers, what can you share of that journey? Because typically, in our audience, very large numbers of entrepreneurs who are trying to learn from our program and our community, everybody is trying to validate what is the market opportunity. And today, the market is at a place where this whole lean, capital-efficient, iterative startup methodology is what investors expect entrepreneurs to follow, and they expect entrepreneurs to take care of that, at least some level of that iteration, and arrive at a solution on, okay, this is now what we are actually going to build the company around prior to giving them money. So if you could throw some light on what was that process and what can our audience learn from your journey?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's a silver bullet insight I can share with you, but a couple of general thoughts. We realized the original pitch to our investors, the early investors, was not so much we see this huge untapped market and we could put a very strong sort of sort of number around it. You know, a lot of times investors want to know what's your addressable market or TAM, total addressable market. What we said was we believe that just as data warehousing and data analytics and a lot of the investments in helping companies better instrument businesses drove a whole market, billion-dollar market for structured data analysis in the 90s and into the 2000s. We believed that the taming of digital content that was structured was going to lead to a second wave of analysis off of data that was unstructured because it was just a mega trend, right? And we said we don't know exactly which specific kind of data is going to be the most interesting to the buyer, but if we build a really robust platform and we make it work and we prove early customer success, then we'll focus, right? And you hear a lot of times companies talk about pivoting, where they try to do something over here and it doesn't work and they do something over here. Our approach was less to pivot, but it was to cast a very wide goal and then over time focus in on the specific sub-goals that were going to be the most financially lucrative. And for us, what we were trying to do, even from the very early days, was to show at least 2 or 3 things. 1, that we could find a market that would be responsive to buying us. 2, prove to that market that if they bought us, we would create a return on investment. And for us, the return on investment was do something faster and cheaper with technology that they might not be able to do without our product, and show a correlation that if they use Clarabridge, they'll be able to make better decisions that will drive growth or revenue, or will ultimately reduce the risk of making the wrong decision. And if they do that, then they will be willing to make the investment in Clarabridge. And with customer experience and customer analytics, we've proven that. We've proven that, you know, there's more and more people talking about more and more things in more and more channels than ever before. You write reviews online, you fill out surveys, you call, you chat, you post reviews. There's so much data, and no company can meaningfully make sense of all that data without a technology. So they could compare, you know, hiring 20, 30, 50 people to read this stuff manually. That's going to cost millions of dollars, or they could spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a platform like Clarabridge. So there's an immediate savings. And then the second issue is if you use analytics, you can prescribe, you can predict, you can be more informed, you can make better decisions. So a big part of our journey was finding that business case and reinforcing in our product the technology, the features, the scalability to make that business case more robust and more provable and more referenceable with our customers in the first few years.
So one of the things I observe in listening to you is something that I've seen before, and I think it's a kind of a lesson that people should, a nugget that people should take away from it, is the notion of discontinuity, right? Mm-hmm. When a market is going through a discontinuity, a significant change, and industry is trying to cope with that change and how to deal with that change, that is a great time.
Opportunity, yes.
It's a great opportunity to bring innovation to market. In your case, 7 years ago, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, that's really when social media was really becoming mainstream, and there was a lot of customer conversations in social media that enterprises were trying to figure out how to deal with, how to cope with, and it sounds like you took your unstructured data analytics platform and positioned it to address that discontinuity and that challenge that enterprises were facing, and that gave you a very interesting go-to-market strategy.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I mean, I don't want to say that we only do social media, and in fact, there were many companies, and even today there are literally hundreds of companies all over the world doing social media analytics. We came to market first to build this platform that could tame and analyze unstructured data. But in 2007 and 2008, I like to joke, when we started Clarabridge, the founder of Twitter was driving a cab in San Francisco, and he came up with the idea because he wanted a way to signal, messages to other cabbies around town. Just a very interesting, mundane requirement that transformed into this huge company. But when that happened, so many companies said, we like this idea of analyzing data. We kind of have people to run and read surveys. We don't know if there's value in call centers, but everybody's putting money into social media. So that freed up money to try to make sense of content, and we absolutely played into that wave. It was a market that we could sort of tap into. What we tried to do to differentiate, though, is to say we're not just going to analyze social media. We're going to analyze all that information that companies collect when they have direct conversations with their customers, too. And by doing that, we differentiate it from the other companies that only do social media. But I'd be lying if I didn't say we didn't take advantage of that wave. We absolutely did, and it was a wave that allowed us to drive growth in our business.
So, and you just touched upon the other face of this coin is when you have a discontinuity, when a market really changes and there's, especially in a major force kind of way, and there's a lot going on in that market, that's also typically the time when lots of startups and lots of activity happens in that market, lots of innovation happens in that market. So then comes the question, how do you differentiate? And you just talked about differentiation strategy, which is to, you correlated both structured and unstructured data, and that was your primary differentiating strategy, yes?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we think of ourselves as, the way we like to position is as an omni-channel hub, meaning, you know, when you are a customer of a business, you interact through so many ways, online, offline, phone calls, emails, even nowadays video and images. So the strategic sort of positioning of Clarabridge today and going forward is we're not just about one channel, we're about all channels. And that, if we continue to innovate ahead of other companies and predict that that's where ultimately communications between people will go in the digital and even traditional analog domain, we can continue to remain differentiated.
So now talk about your financing history. You started off with some investor money and then added to it. So talk a little bit about the financing history of the company.
Sure. So the company, you know, my first experiences with Clarabridge were we actually funded the company with a little bit of our own business from a prior company that I had started a few years earlier. But when it became clear that our technology would benefit from more money than we could legitimately, you know, bring to the company ourselves from the founders that started the company, we did go out to VCs. The benefit of having run a prior company in the early 2000s before starting Clarabridge gave me and my co-founders a reputation for knowing how to responsibly manage money. I think that helped to raise early money. We did 3 rounds in the mid to late 2000s that gave us a total of about $25 million, which in hindsight feels like a lot, but we used that to spin up a team of about 20 engineers, to build out a sales force, to really take an aggressive marketing position. Because, as you mentioned earlier, I mean, this market was starting to heat up with a lot of competitors, and we believed that we needed more resources to grow faster than other people, both on the technology and the go-to-market. That's what really got us to a point of, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So these $25 million in 3 rounds, was it from investors in the Virginia area? Was it investors from?
It was, yeah, it was primarily what I would call mid-Atlantic, so people in the Washington, D.C. and Virginia areas where the company is based. They were investors that knew me personally because I'm in this market, and they'd been tracking, you know, my career and the company's history. The later stage, as we got bigger, we started to reach out to a more national investor community. And as you know, more recently, we raised money from pretty significant amount of money from some investors up in Boston that are part of the Boston West Coast sort of VC mafia, if you will.
So that's, you're talking about the 2013 private equity round of $80 million, yes?
That's correct. That's correct.
So talk about that a little bit. Does that mean that you took liquidity at that point? Is that the point of the private equity?
Yeah, so I think this is something that if you know, when you're fortunate enough to have a company for 6 or 7 years, which is what we were at when we got to 2013, we'd had an interesting inflection point with the business. The company, from the beginning of really going to market in 2007 timeframe through 2013, had very strong growth. You know, averaging between, on the early days, hundreds of % a year, more recently in the 50% a year range. And when you're running a company, you realize that as long as you can keep growing, there isn't necessarily an incentive to sell your company. You want to keep building your company and grow it to make it bigger and stronger and ultimately, you know, exit through an IPO or other types of means. So there was a majority of the investors and the people in the company that were very aligned to building a great company. But after about 6 or 7 years, the thing about VCs is depending on the lifetime of their fund and when they want to return capital back to the investors that gave money to them, they may misalign. You know, you may want to go this way and grow the company, and they may want to take a little money off the table so that they can show a return to their investors who actually put the money into the VC fund. So we hit that point, and we had two options. One was to sell the company, which would have returned everybody money, and the other would have been to go and raise more of a private equity round, which would have brought new investors into the company that would have put some money in the company and would also give some money to the old investors and essentially take their seat at the table. And that's what we ended up doing. We had, I think, the good fortune, too, over the last 3-4 years, you know, starting around 2012 up through now, that private equity market is actually pretty healthy, and there are a lot of later stage investors that are happy to buy out positions of early stage investors and then help grow the company further. And that's exactly what we did.
Right, and this is, by the way, last week also we had an entrepreneur, Therese Tucker from Blackline. She has also taken some liquidity, her investors, and has given liquidity to her early investors in the same format. And part of what is going on in the industry is that, you know, it takes time to build companies to significant scale, and there is a lot of money in the system. There's a tremendous amount of private capital available in the system, and for situations like what you just described or what Therese described last time, Therese also had been at it for a long time. You know, she had started in 2003, and the first private equity money she took was in 2013 or 14 as well. So, so I think when you're at it for a long time, you do want to take some liquidity and for the team as well as early investors, and this is happening quite a lot in the industry right now. We're seeing quite a lot of that.
Yes.
So now, so 2013, you did that deal with $80 million. Where are you now, 2 years later, in terms of valuations and, you know, growth and so forth? Where are you? You know, of course, this is, as you know, this is part of our billion-dollar unicorn series. Are you approaching a unicorn status now?
Well, I don't know if I have my horn yet, but I'm hoping to grow one soon. No, we definitely have an interest in continuing to drive high growth, and I think that, you know, the definition of unicorn, as you know, I'm sure, is basically a company that can be worth $1 billion. That's sort of the established definition of a unicorn. Market capitalization, right? So when a company either gets bought or goes public, it's worth at least $1 million on the market. $1 billion, sorry. And I think that to get to $1 billion, you really need to be able to show that you're a high growth company, that you're driving growth of revenues into the $100 million plus range. Because I think, again, when you're high growth and you're valuable, you typically, at least nowadays, can get, you know, close to 10 times revenues. So 10 times 100 million in revenues is $1 billion in value. And I think that the space that we're in absolutely has the potential to create unicorns. I'm not going to say that it's definitely going to be us, because I don't want to be so bold and presumptuous as to say that, but we're definitely aligned to building the company so that we can achieve the kind of scale and growth that when the right time comes, we could do that. And there's no question that's part of our execution plan.
And
no,
is part of
no, go ahead, please.
Is part of your execution plan an IPO in the next 12 to 18 months, or are you further out? Are you looking further out?
I think that it's entirely feasible. Yes, we have the financial maturity, the organizational maturity, the market maturity. That's my wife. But Kate, I'm on a WebEx. Go away. Sorry. I think we have the financial maturity, the organizational maturity, and the market maturity that, in terms of the kinds of dynamics to do that. And when you look at, a company like Clarabridge, we sell to some of the largest companies in the world. We have 3 of the largest telecommunications companies in the world. We have companies like Walmart. We have, large technology companies that build computers and electronic equipment and are in the top 2, 3 of their space. And and we also have a good scope in terms of range of customers, small to large. So that gives us, I think, the kind of maturity that anybody that wants to invest in a company like ours will say, this is a valuable company. So yes, and the time frame, 12 to 18 months, again, these things you often don't want to predict with certainty. I think of running a company to an exit like sailing a boat. You kind of know where you want to go, but there might be winds, there might be, waves in your favor or against you, and you kind of have to be adaptable. But as long as you know where you're going, you can get there, and that's where we're trying to get.
My last question is around doing all this in Virginia. What has your experience been like doing it in Virginia, and what is the Virginia ecosystem like today, and how has it evolved in the last 7, 8 years or 10 years? You've been there for a long time in this industry.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think there's sort of two answers, because we are very much a Virginia-centric company, but I also want to clarify, we have, as we've grown across the world too. I think starting the company here, which for me was partly personal because I was already living here and I had access to a network of people and financial support to start the business, was logical. I don't know that it would be logical for someone that's not in the region. But the region today does boast a very talented workforce, access to capital, early generation companies in the analytics space, which is the space we're in, like MicroStrategy, like folks that have done work for the U.S. government, provides you with a knowledgeable workforce that can help you really get a company off the ground quickly. And we definitely tapped into a lot of those things starting and building the company. As you get bigger, though, and we are bigger, we part of that $80 million we raised, we used to finance the acquisition of a company that's based in Northern California. We now have operations on the West Coast. And we also found that as we were ramping up our engineering and support functions to sort of manage all of our cloud systems and help with the technology development, we needed to be able to find the best people everywhere in the world. So we actually have a team of close to 20 people that support the operations of the technology in India. We also have development resources that we've staffed up in Eastern Europe. And the company is very much an international company at this stage.
Now, every time there is one major company that is successful in a region, that kind of spawns one core competency in a certain domain, and then also startup activity around that domain. So the presence of MicroStrategy, the success of MicroStrategy, does that follow that trend of, are there a lot of analytics startups besides Clarabridge? Has Virginia then turned into a mini hotbed of analytics startups in that case?
No, it has to a certain extent. I mean, there's a company that just made the news a few days ago based in Arlington, Virginia, which is just down the road from where Clarabridge is based, called Applied Predictive Technologies. They're not in the unstructured data space like we are, but they do a lot of analytics and predictive for retailers and consumer goods companies all over the world. They just got bought by MasterCard International for $600 million. So they were sort of a half a unicorn, I guess. But that group has been growing, largely under radar up until about 2 years ago when people realized, my gosh, this is a real company. They, like Clarabridge, did about an $80 million raise around the same time that we did. There are also companies that have grown up out of, the government space. There's a lot of really interesting intelligence assessment work that gets done on behalf of a number of agencies here, and there have been some fairly interesting companies that, nobody's heard of because they work 100% with the government, where there's been really, really good talent growing and developing over the years. And then if you go back even further, companies like AOL, America Online, one of the first real online technology companies, was based not too far from where we are as well. And that company grew very, very rapidly in the 90s and into the early 2000s. And you start to see a lot of those people in now starting second and third generation companies after leaving that business.
Terrific. Sid, I know we are out of time. Thank you for coming and providing perspective both about Clarabridge, your journey, as well as insights into what's happening in one corner of the world, Virginia. And it's good to know that there is interesting activity there.
Thank you very much. No, I enjoyed talking to you, and again, I love what you guys are doing too. So rallying the cause to create great companies. So thank you.
Okay, folks, we're going to go into the mentoring portion of the program today. Susan, you were first. Could you please unmute your line and come and tell us what you're doing? That's a very cool picture.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Good morning, SRAMANA, and good morning to everybody here on the call. I'm Suzanne Abate, based here in Los Angeles, and thought I'd just kick off the presentation by telling you all two truths and one lie about me, but I'm not going to let you know which are which. Those two truths and one lie are that I write a food blog, I love pickles, and I'm Canadian.
So what are we supposed to do? Kind of take guesses at which one is the lie?
Well, I'll tell you what, if you remind me at the end of our chat, I'll let you in on which one wasn't the truth. How does that sound?
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Excellent. So I'm here to introduce you to my time blocks, which is real-time intelligence for service businesses. And it's nice actually to be presenting on the heels of Clarabridge because a lot of what we're looking to do is inspired by, predictive analytics, but really targeted for the service business or small, medium business space. Now, when you hear the name My Time Blocks, you might be thinking, does the market really need more time software when there are already more than 60 such services in the market? Next slide, please, Ramana. And yet, even with so many time tracking systems, most service businesses still lack insight into their own productivity and profitability. Why? Because the only problem our competition solves is billing and expenses tracking. Next slide, please. Most timesheet software does not provide true business intelligence because of the bad data cycle. And to explain that, if it's hard to do, people will resist it. If it's boring, people will resist it. If it's perceived to be meaningless, people will resist it. Most employees resist tracking their time, and the problem generally gets worse higher up the chain of command. Resistance results in delayed time entry, and paired with the unreliability of memory, which is to say, what did I work on last Friday when I can't even remember what I ate for breakfast, reporting gaps in turn lead to bad or falsified data. And worse, create an actual delay between what's happening or already happened on the ground and how management is responding to that information. Next slide, please. To illustrate the point, could you imagine if hospitals worked the same way that most businesses record their time, which is to say after the fact? Next slide, please. It may be true that other time systems offer some form of real-time tracking, but My Time Blocks has the simplest user interface in market today. Next slide. So how do we change the results? For starters, we provide our users with a dead simple and beautiful interface. We dare to even make time tracking fun. The data is captured in step with the activity, and the task of time entry disappears altogether. We empower managers to identify problems with simple visual indicators. Green is good, red is bad. Learn to use those metrics to inspire change within the company or conversations. And lastly, we give owners and executives reliable data that they can use to more accurately assess resource overload and inform hiring decisions, to preempt budget overruns with clients before money or time is lost, and to identify the types of projects that are best or least supported by their own businesses. The U.S. Census indicates there are nearly 5 million service businesses with fewer than 100 employees. Our perceived greatest competitor, Harvest, owns 35,000 of those businesses, or roughly less than 1% of the total market. Time management software is far from saturation. Next slide, please.
Suzanne, before you go on, this is not market validation. This is kind of like a market size. What is your experience with market validation? Do you have a slide coming up where you actually have talked to certain segments of customers who have particularly resonated with what you're proposing to do and it lends into their workflow and so forth?
It's on the next slide. I hope it's on the next slide. So what does it mean, a service business? For us, we've identified 7 verticals in the service businesses space which we feel can most readily benefit from our product. And those businesses most typically work in the world of project-based services or billable hours. The verticals are identified on the right of the slide, and it represents nearly 25 million user universe potential. Proof of concept. Our initial MVP was an iOS application for iPad called My Time Organizer. We built it, frankly, to solve our own problem and put it out into market just to see what would happen. We had 0 paid spend, and frankly, we weren't even a business at the time. It was an offshoot incubated project from a development company that I own. The app to date received 14,600 downloads with 0 visibility. Next slide, please.
What do you mean 0 visibility?
Sorry, 0 paid spend, so 0 marketing effort, 0 outreach. We didn't tell anybody that we were putting it there. We dropped it into the Apple Store with the intention of reaching out to about 100 or 200 people in our close network to get beta testers and get some insightful feedback. And before we even had an opportunity to get out in front of it, we had 15,000 downloads and people responding to the application.
Okay, and these people are not paying, they're downloading it for free, and are they actually using it? Can you see what is the usage level of these downloads?
Yeah, so great question. Unfortunately, Apple is definitely evolving its initial metrics to provide developers with more insight. I would suspect there was a significant amount of attrition. One of the things that we attempted as part of our MVP, which was a little unprecedented at the time, was to create an in-app purchase model. So the idea was that the core app itself was free, and it came with a block of hours that you could essentially draw down against. And then when you run out of hours, you essentially, put your quarter in the machine and refill. And people absolutely revolted against the concept, which for us really demonstrated that in the productivity space, and specifically in the app marketplace, it's very, very difficult to communicate the value of a subscription-based model that allows the company to continue to generate improvements. And so that learning for us actually prompted us to shift toward an HTML5 web application version of the software that could be marketed more readily as a subscription-based SaaS service. So this slide is here just to tell you where we started, and this slide here is to talk about where we'd like to go. So here we are in 2015, and our goal is to end this year with 4,000 users. And for that, we've identified 3 tactics that we believe are most effective and affordable to get us to move the needle. Those are direct sales, email marketing, and targeting blogs. In 2016,
subscription-based SaaS product.
Yes, that's exactly right. So the product is fully developed and in market, and currently we have about 24 companies registered and using the software, and we're looking to scale to 4,000 users by December 2015 in a mix of the 3 channels.
These 24 companies, Suzanne, are they paying?
Most of them are still inside of the parameters of their 30-day free trial. We only released the product openly in March of 2015. So some of them will be entering into paid model effective June 1. And then, we expect that there will be some attrition, and at the same time, we're filling up our bucket as we anticipate some loss accordingly.
And what is the price point?
It's $10 per user per month.
Okay. And these 24 companies using it, do you know how many users they're each bringing onto the product?
Yeah, currently just over 200 users across the 24 companies, and
okay.
So still very much in the early stages.
So your 4,000 user target is users, not companies.
That's exactly right. So when we think about a service-based business, we're assuming an average of 5 seats per company. So, 4,000 may be ambitious, but it's good to have goals, we believe. And, 4,000 is a place where if we're revenue generating at that level, because we have a lean operating cost, and I do have some data in here on that, we believe that we'll have the income to begin to introduce other tactics into our marketing mix, such as content marketing, such as engineering as marketing. We've got a product roadmap that I'll be sharing a little further on. And then obviously later when we hit that 55,000 plus user goal, public relations, social display ads, spends where the cost of acquisition is a little bit higher, but you have some money available to throw at those tactics. And they scale beyond, having 2 or 3 or 4 direct sales people reaching out.
Okay.
So this is our projected revenue model, assuming that we're able to hit the, the user targets that we've estimated. And, we don't really have enough evidence ourselves of what our actual churn rate will be, but 5 to 7% seems to be sort of the average reported churn rate for most SaaS businesses. Obviously, any goal would be to be underneath that, but we're working with that as placeholder for what we can expect as we grow.
Okay.
Next slide, please. In a poll of small and medium business owners, 2 of the top 5 cited concerns were revenue generation and protecting profits. And yet business owners who aren't using my time blocks are burning their margins and have no idea. And how do I know? Because 7 months ago, I introduced the solution into my own web development business, and we increased our profitability by 30% without adding a single resource.
Mm-hmm.
Next slide, please. My Time Blocks wants to become the future of predictive intelligence for small, medium business. Next slide.
Well, that doesn't sound right to me. You want to be the future of time management and predictive optimization of time management for SMB services business.
Well, that's what we are today, but that's not what where we are today and where we're going are not necessarily aligned, and I think that's demonstrated here in our product roadmap. If we look where we're sitting today, we're nestled in the pack alongside some much more recognizable leaders in the space: Harvest, QuickBooks Timesheets, Toggle, Freckle, essentially providing time tracking and reporting services, albeit with a slightly different spin. But everybody has a slightly different spin that they believe to be their special sauce. Where we think the difference will be is where we continue to innovate and evolve the product. In 2016, we have plans to release an Apple Watch application extension of the core service, as well as introduce a smart meetings dashboard, which will allow executives to see in real time how much time a meeting is costing the company in terms of its own profits, and a freelancer marketplace, which will allow companies who use My Time and freelancers to use My Time to interface as a recruitment mechanism. Moving on from there, personal or predictive routine planners and predictive resource planning. The goal is to evolve ever more towards what we think of as artificial intelligence for business, or smart predictions based on behavioral patterns.
So I don't buy into your product roadmap.
Okay, why is that?
I'll tell you why. Why? Because for a small company to manage that many products and that many businesses within the first 3-4 years is impossible. So you would be better off not investing in those kinds of, unrelated products and focusing on building your core business. If you try to do an Apple Watch product, that's a whole different way of going to market. That's a whole different, the adoption cycle is very different. Freelancer marketplace is an extremely crowded market. There are lots of major, large competitors. Going into that market and trying to build a business will throw you completely off track and burn up resources that are absolutely the wrong, way to spend resources, spend, very, very limited resources that you will have to work with, and so on and so forth. So if I were you, I would forget about this product roadmap, just focus on the business you're building and build it well. Execute on it and not waste money on trying to do all these random businesses.
Right. Thank you for your feedback. The executive management team, I've introduced myself, Suzanne Abate. I'm the CEO of the company and also co-founder of the Development Factory, which is a leading provider of digital and interactive production services, offices in Los Angeles, Toronto, and Krakow. In the middle is my longtime friend and co-founder of the Development Factory, Andrew Bodas, a triple threat of programming genius, interface design, and business acumen. And on the far right, Michael Daniel. Michael brings significant experience as a former engineer of IBM and CTO of 20th Century Fox Family. But for my time blocks, it's his 18 years of direct response marketing and business growth expertise that benefits us most.
Okay.
We're currently looking for $350,000 in exchange for a 20% equity stake of the business, which we believe will provide us the bridge to get to that 4,000 user goal that we have for December 2015, at which point we'll be profit generating and in a position theoretically to repay on our loan in year 2 under the business model.
Repay on your loan, you're trying to raise $350,000?
I didn't say that correctly. What I mean to say is that $350,000 is really the bridge requirement that we need. We are raising it as an equity financing. We believe that if we're able to secure on these funds and reach the user goals that we've anticipated for the end of the year, that we will be able to stand up alone on the revenue generation model that we've created and continue to scale from there. To put it another way, we're not anticipating further financing requirements.
So first and foremost, you should not be raising $350,000 for 20%. That's a lousy deal. That's way too much equity for way too little money.
I appreciate.
Sorry, Suzanne, I'm going to have to stop there because your time is way up. I have 2 more people to work with, but take that as a feedback and research that further.
Right. Yeah, one of the questions that I had, and maybe I can follow up with you, is exactly about the valuation. I do feel the same. We're just struggling with how to justifiably ask for more and present what feels like a fair pre-money valuation of the business.
Don't present any valuation. Valuations are presented by investors. Entrepreneurs are not supposed to be presenting valuations. You're supposed to be negotiating valuation. You don't need to present valuation.
So you say just ask for whatever and see if somebody will bite? Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, there's a strategy. There's a whole process of fundraising. You need to learn that process and follow that process. But if you hang on, I will explain to you how 1M works. And we do help with fundraising and all of that stuff. But I'd like to first work with the other presenters before I get to that segment, okay? So
absolutely. Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. Your presentation was excellent. Eddie, you're up next. Eddie Gottschalk.
Hi, can you hear me?
Thank you, Suzanne.
I hope you can hear me, right?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so WizMaps. WizMaps is a new data visualization technology to help real estate professionals. We have our technology built, and it's to help real estate agents and professionals see what's going on in the local market. They can make more sales. So we're a GIS data visualization company. So next. So this is about myself. We spent years developing this technology. We have some really smart teams of MBAs, PhDs, developers. We finally got our technology in private beta. I have an MBA in real estate. I bought over 40 properties, been licensed in 6 states. I built automatic valuation models, which is like the Zillow model, what house is worth. We built predictive models, what houses will be worth at the local level. I invested a lot of capital in building this because I know the problem in real estate. And I mentioned we're in private beta. And we have some Berkeley PhDs. You got it. Okay, so our target markets are B2B and B2C. For B2B, it's mostly commercial real estate brokerages and professional REITs, investment firms. And B2C is the individuals and real estate investors and agents. So our core value is showing the past and future growth.
You're
Yes?
echoing, you're streaming echo into the call. Do you have both your computer and your phone line on, in which case you need to turn off the computer?
If I turn off my computer, how do I see the screen?
Oh, it's not Eddie. It's someone else. I'll mute the person. It's not him. Sorry, Eddie.
Okay, all right. Fine, never mind. Go ahead.
That's a really mind read to see the screen. Okay, so our target.
What I mean is you need to mute the sound of the computer. Typically, if the sound of the computer and the phone sound are both on, then the echo starts. Anyway, you are not. Maureen says you are not the reason why there's echo. So please go ahead.
Okay.
Somebody else.
So our value proposition is the past. What's going on in the market in the past and the future growth patterns with this user-generated real-time data maps. And that current technology doesn't exist on the web today, so it's always been a challenge to me to explain it. So let's go to the next slide, what the problem is. According to Gallup polls, 67% of Americans do not trust real estate agents. They're just barely above politicians. Because there's a reason why this is because they don't have current demographic and economic data. They don't know what's going on. They can't advise clients where to invest or to buy. They just have property data. So they're left in a fog of what's going on in the local market. And everybody knows it's location, location, location. But today it's all about property, property, property because the location analytics doesn't exist. So next. So this is our prototype. We can either show you this. We've had it built, but this is what it looks like. So you type in address. These images or blocks, tracks, zip codes are rendered in real time. So you can filter it, see what's going on, what's growing, what's not. Our competitors, ESRI, typically how the software is done is that they build it on the web and on the desktop. Excuse me, on the desktop only. But we're bringing it on the web so anybody can access and to access local information and trends. So the next slide.
So let me just try to understand what is the differentiator with. I mean, there's a ton of MLS data. There's a ton of neighborhood data. If you're trying to buy a house in a neighborhood, they will provide you tons of. At least all real estate agents have plenty of neighborhood data or local data. What is the additional value that you add?
Sure. So let's say the data that they have is aggregated property data. The next slide shows it. But let's say we have what was the population trend in your zip code last month? What was the income growth in your zip code last month? The difference is the frequency and the data set. So we show growth. Typically, the real estate agent only has yearly demographics and economics data. That's just a data point. That's like a sound bite. Once we have monthly demographics, we have this month and last month, then we have growth. That's the difference. No one has growth in the industry. So we have growth. And just to show that your any zip code, and then we have to look at it, how does that compare? So we have affordability, but it's the difference is the frequency. And the mind would be overloaded and look through all that information, so that's why we visualize it. So this is where the prototype is. What we've been doing is we've talked to the businesses, but we could give them a geo exclusivity, which was the pre-funding, how we make money, and what the objective is to show traction. We've talked to a lot of people. They want it for $100 to $200 per month with upsells. We could put this technology on other people's website, which is what they really want. So because agents, all they care about is making more commissions and leads.
Mm-hmm.
So the next slide is what.
How are you hoping to do that? So is your go-to-market strategy then putting this on other realtors' websites? Is that the primary go-to-market strategy, and then charging them $100 or $200 a month for it?
We could do that. So that's one of the applications we could do. This really gets into my question. So what we've done so far is we've back up, please. Went too fast. Done so far. So what we've done so far, we've pitched this technology and demos to the large companies, ISGN, the large commercial brokerages, PIM firms, but we haven't been able to close them. And the reason is that our data costs us about $40,000 a year, so I ran low on funds. So we leverage data that's not on the web that the real estate agents or the real estate appraisers do not have access. Because like I mentioned, we have monthly demographics and they have yearly. That's the difference. So this data is not free, and that's how we get around that licensing because we show growth patterns. If we were just to display it for free, monthly demographics, we would break the license and be shut down. But since we show growth, we get around that. On the B2B side, we aren't getting much traffic because we're just starting SEO, but I get a call a day or, some people wanting to sign up and buy it. So the pivot, which I want to discuss with you, is to go for the B2C. And then, because people want to buy it, but investors, they always want to say, well, show us traction, show us what the people want to buy this. So the pivot's going to be to go to B2C to get like pre-sales, because we haven't been able to close the B2B because, again, the data is not fresh, and B2B wants the fully product built. So the next slide. So those are basically my challenges. I asked some smart VCs. They said, do exactly what I said, show the traction by getting 100 people that they want it. Get 100 investors, real estate agents that they want this software. And I know I can do that in a month because we have the killer technology, which we didn't display because they want more. The people make a buying decision based upon right now, yearly demographics and property data. Well, what if they could show growth? Where's growing? Because that's what a lot of businesses relocate by growth. They don't really care about just the property alone. So I wanted to ask your opinion about the pivot.
So what is the B2C customer? Who is the customer who is calling you, and what is the profile of that customer? Who and what is the purpose? What is the, why do they want this data?
Well, we have a couple things. We have predictive analytics. We have where prices will go. I didn't talk about that too quick because we have predictive analytics and growth patterns. So investors want that. So real estate investors want to, they have money. People who have money at risk. I have direct hard money lenders. They have, we have to lend money to clients. They want to know the risk of the local environment. And I have real estate agents say, wow, this is cool technology. Can I have it can I show authority and have this technology on my website so I can show my local clients where to invest? And I get 1 or 2 calls a week from commercial agents because they currently are using ESRI, which only shows yearly demographics, but if they could advise their clients, because commercial has more quantifiable than emotional than residential, so they could use this technology on their iPad and they could advise their clients in real time to invest in this area or not.
So to cater to these real estate agents who are calling you 1 or 2 a day and want to put this on their website, what do you need? What is standing on the way of fulfilling that order, so to speak?
Well, it's because I mentioned we have a $40,000 nut to get over. I ran low on funds, and so they want to show the growth patterns of 2009 in February doesn't help them. They want to know the growth patterns of last quarter, and to do that, I've got to raise a minimum just to $40,000 just to refresh my data. That's the challenge.
That kind of money, that kind of denomination of money at this stage of a company's evolution is best raised from friends and family. No professional investor.
But then even if I raise it, I still have to scale fast. So that's what I want to really go to, to be able to put this in. Let's say if I have $40,000 and 10 people paying me $100 a month, I'll run out. $40,000 isn't enough.
So Eddie, all I'm telling you is right now your options are tremendously limited. Until you show traction, no investor is going to invest in this company other than friends and family. That's just the reality of the story.
So I understand that. That's what the VC suggested, getting 30 to 100 real estate agents to want to pre-buy. So then I have 100 agents that want to give me $100 a month. Is that enough? Is it worth doing that? That's the question. Not I'll go get a regular job.
For me, it's not a question of whether it's worth doing that. The question is, can you do that? Are people willing to pay for it? If they are,
yes.
then sure. You know, if you get 40 agents to, or like actually 400 agents to pay you, no, 40 agents who pay you $100 each, that gives you $4,000. If you get 400 agents paying $100 each, that gives you $40,000.
I meant to say pre-order, so I can't get them to prepay, but I can only get them to commit to order to pre-order.
Pre-order is going to get you nowhere.
Okay,
I don't think pre-order is anywhere.
Okay, sounds like you're saying I should go get a job then. Okay, that's what I needed, your feedback.
I'm not saying you need to get a job. Every company that gets itself off the ground has to get through a phase where they have to bootstrap their way into validating a concept. You're not the first entrepreneur who has come into the business world who has to validate a concept. If your approach to life is that, okay, I can figure this out, I'm going to go get a job, that's your choice. By the way, there is another methodology that we use, which is called bootstrapping using a paycheck. So you could get a job and use money from your job to bootstrap this business as well. That's also a viable possibility. That's up to you how you navigate the bootstrapping phase, but there are many different options for bootstrapping. We teach a variety of different options, but you're going to need to learn how to bootstrap. And every entrepreneur who has gotten anywhere with their businesses have had to bootstrap the early phases of the business. Investors don't write random checks.
Okie doke.
All right. Good luck.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, we have Mudit Gupta next. Mudit, if you could please unmute your line and tell us what you're up to, that would be great.
Hi, SRAMANA. This is Mudit from Bangalore, India. I, along with my partner Zubair, run a company called Z Events in Bangalore. Can you move to the next slide? Yeah. So Z Events is one of the most premier and most respected artist management and event management agency in India. We have been in the industry for close to 9 years now. We manage some of the India's best EDM artists, electronic dance music artists, which perform at country's top music festivals like Supersonic, Sunburn, Global Music Festival. I hope you have heard about them a little bit.
I haven't heard of any of them, but I haven't lived in India in 5 years, so I have no clue. But I understand that you large events, that much I can understand, and that's sufficient, I think, for me right now to understand your business.
Yes. All right. So, we have also organized a lot of tours of international artists like Chucky, Highlight Tribe, Mighty Fools, Dimitrico. I'm not sure. I mean, I think you will not be aware of most of them, but many of them, these are quite well-known names in the industry. We also know several of the EDM intellectual properties like Sonic Boom, which is a concert series, which we rent out to other people. We don't organize our own events under these properties, but we do rent it out to colleges, universities, and clubs, etc. These properties are Sonic Boom, Lockdown, and Make Some Noise Music Carnival. So next slide, please. So in past, we have largely been doing event management for other companies, for third-party clients. But we have not been doing our own shows and everything because they are very capital-intensive and everything. But in recent past, our revenues have plateaued in terms of event management. So we want to enter into live concerts and stage show production.
What is your revenue level for our business today?
Currently, it's not much because event management industry in India is not so developed. So we generate about 80 to 100K US dollars per year. just me and my founder doing regular event management, and plus from artist management and tour management, we have certain additional revenues. So our vision is to be a $1 billion global live entertainment and media group by 2025 with presence in 50+ countries. Next slide. So just wanted to give you a brief about live concert industry in India. This is actually it's not the whole media and entertainment industry in India, but that this represents the segment, the addressable market that we are planning to start with. So it's a $250 million industry in India. This is a live concert. It does not include sports or any other sorts of media. 19% annual CAGR. Year on year, it's growing at the rate of 19%. And it's estimated that around 1.2 million people attended concerts in 2014. So it's this industry is largely unorganized. So our going forward, what our business objectives are is to produce, organize and produce multi-city commercial concert tours majorly with Bollywood singers and artists, international DJs, international rock bands and singers, with majority of the focus being on Bollywood singers and artists. So speaking of that, in India, the live concert industry for Bollywood is largely organized. It's like some rich kid wants to do a concert, and he approaches us, and we do a concert from him, and then he disappears from the scene for like next 2-3 years, and make some money and just spends it off. But with our experience, we think we can build a growth-oriented business using the experience we have. So our next objective is to sell 80 to 100% of the venue capacity for each concert. Our objective is to produce 15 to 20 concerts per year, generate a revenue of 10 million with 25% margin to start with, and target a 50 to 70% growth year on year. The higher margin, we can even increase the margin further by having multi-concert deals with venues, promotional partners, artists, advertising agencies. So typically in India, in media market or Indian market, it works like if you book for like 3 days, if you book, for example, a venue for 3 days, you have to pay only for 2 days. So that's pretty much common across industries. So it might be like if you pay for, if you want to book for 4 days, you have to pay for 3 days. So we can essentially, by organizing this segment, we can essentially reduce cost by like say 25%, up to 25%. And then initially.
Have you done detailed P&L of like, let's say, forget 15 to 20 concerts. Let's say if you were to do one concert, as a pilot, right? The scale of concert that you're talking about, the type of concert that you're talking about, the type of venue, the type of artist. Have you done the P&L for that? P&L?
Yes, it's in there would be an Excel sheet as well in the PPT, as well as which has all the details. It's in here for the slides actually. So just to define the target market, it's 14 to 40 years of age in Tier 1 cities like Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai, Kolkata, and Tier 2 cities like Ahmedabad, Bhopal, Raipur, Nagpur, Pune, etc. The exact target market will differ from concert to concert depending on the artist and genre. For example, if I get a EDM artist, the target age would be somewhere between 14 to 25. And if I get like a singer like Jagjit Singh, who's a Ghazal singer, the targeting would be done for relatively higher age, for example, 30 to 40 years old or 25 to 40 years old or something.
What kind of size concert are we talking here? Is this like 350 people concert, 5,000 people concert?
No. We are the minimum size of the concert we are talking about is at least 1,000 people, 1,500 people.
Okay.
Next slide, please. So customer acquisition, We'll be promoting extensively through radio, print, TV, billboards, strategic brand alliances, social media, native placement, mobile, etc. But again, the exact marketing mix of these will depend upon the concepts, etc. So, for example, if it's a ghazal singer, I will place more emphasis on the offline marketing like through newspapers or through radio ads. Or if it's an EDM artist that we are getting, I would do more marketing through social media. So again, it depends upon the artist we are getting.
So Mudit, my first feedback to you on this business would be, can you create a business which is 100% customer acquisition through social media? Because, you know, given the social media penetration in India today, getting 1,000 people for a concert cannot be that difficult. And I imagine that is the most cost-effective way of recruiting customers for filling up a concert like this. And then you can position your company. Can you let me finish?
Yeah. Sure.
If you do that,
Sorry.
To do that, you're going to also select the segment that responds best to social media. So instead of going, we're going to go with this customer base and then do radio. If this is the singer, I would only do social media and do singers who align with the target segment that can be recruited with social media extremely cost effectively, and see if you can make it a higher margin business than a 25% margin business. So if you can spin this as a technology-enabled service story. So it's a hybrid business, obviously. A lot of this business is offline. This is not a technology business or even a technology-enabled service business unless you can spin it as a 100% social media customer acquisition kind of strategy and really use that to drive the cost of customer acquisition down. Because it seems to me that a lot of the cost structure of this business is going to be eaten up in TV advertising and print advertising and blah, blah, blah. And if you can shave, you know, significant percentage points out of the P&L by just doing a very cost-effective technology-enabled customer acquisition strategy, that would be, to me, that would be an interesting business to build.
Yes, exactly. But unfortunately, this is what I'm saying from my experience. We have done close to 20 concerts from end to end till date. I'll probably share the details in future slides, but unfortunately, social media in India I mean, it's good to create awareness, but the conversion of that into actual sales is very, very low. It's very, very low. I mean, we have spent, I mean, last year we did a concert called Sonic Boom, which was in partnership with VH1, which is one of the leading music channels in India. And we spent a considerable amount of money on social media and equal amount of money on newspaper ads as well, just in the classified section, not the main tabular ads, but our turnout was much more from the newspaper ads as compared to the social media. I'll probably...
Our segment for that concert?
Sorry?
What was the target segment for that customer, for that concert?
We were targeting 18 to 35 years old people in Bangalore city, mostly couples and from higher income group. So we actually had quite a good turnout. We end up having somewhere around 6,500 people coming for that concert.
And the 1,500 people for that concert, for that demographic, you could not market this through social media. You couldn't get conversion through social media. What did you do in social media that you couldn't get this conversion?
So we did through Facebook and Twitter as well as through Google+. I mean, social media is really good. I mean, as far as I know the market here, it's very difficult to convert a social media campaign into sales. You can create huge amount of awareness. And this is one of the reasons, probably it's not related, but this is one of the reasons that crowdfunding is not being so successful in India, because people still want to buy things offline, or majority of the
crowdfunding is not has nothing to do with what you're talking about. So how do you measure? Hold on, Mudit. How do you measure whether you converted whether you sold your tickets through social media awareness or through your classified ad? How do you know that this 1,500 people showed up, converted because of the newspaper ad and not through social media awareness building?
Tickets is mostly in cash and offline, not through online ticketing channels.
But online sales and online promotion, online customer acquisition are two different things. People may not be completing the sale online, but actually marketing the concert online is the best way to market. They may not be buying online. They're getting to know about your program and going and buying tickets because they're finding out about your program online. And it's not like to advertise on TV, they're going to buy on TV, right?
No, I completely agree to it that social media is a very good platform to create awareness of the product, of our services, of our concerts.
That's all you're doing on your newspaper. It's not like people have a button to click on the newspaper and buy a product, buy a ticket.
But they have an option to call me and order tickets for home delivery.
Don't have that on the social media channels? They don't have a call to action for your social media campaigns?
No, I think what I am trying to say is only through social media, it would be very difficult. So we need to have.
You can take my feedback or leave it. That's up to you. But I think you're confusing social media marketing with social media sales, and those are two different things, or online sales. Those are two different things. Those are completely two different.
All right. I understand that.
So I think what I'm saying to you is that, if you can make this an interesting business that is primarily driven through online marketing. I'm not saying online sales necessarily, online marketing. If your customer acquisition is primarily through online marketing, and hence a lot cheaper to market than, 1,500 people for a concert is not that many people, especially if it's a type of concert where you have a history of being able to get 1,500 people. That class of people who attend concerts and who do stuff like that are entirely online. Should be able to acquire those customers, not necessarily complete the sale. The sale may require calling somebody or going and picking up tickets somewhere. That's a different issue. But in terms of advertising and awareness building, this business should be built on social media. Sitting in 2015, this is a business that is, in some ways, is going to be only scalable and interesting if it is built using social media.
Exactly. All right. Thanks for the feedback. But just one more point I would like to add. For example, in radio advertising, usually we don't have to pay anything to the radio channels to advertise there. It's usually a barter deal. We give them like 5 to 10 tickets, and that buys us some time on the radio channels. And all we have to do is just give them some tickets, and they run contests on radio shows. So many of the advertising deals, for example, billboards are also something which we do on a barter basis. We don't have to spend much on getting the billboards, because many of the brands own the billboards. For example, telecom providers, we just put their logos onto the creators, and in exchange we do barter deals for putting the billboards across it.
As long as it's cost-efficient marketing, that's fine.
Yeah.
So if let's cut through the chase. We're out of time. So if you're trying to raise money for this business, my take on it is, if it's a pure, offline services business, that those tend to not be so attractive to investors. Investors are typically look for points where where you have levers to scale other than adding people and adding money. So unless you can show those levers, and then we just discussed one of those levers is if you can show very proven and savvy understanding of social media and how to acquire customers on social media efficiently, that would be of interest to investors. But other than that, it's an event management company. There are numerous event management companies in India. Why would people be interested in funding an event management company? I don't think that would be of a lot of interest for people.
Okay.
Unless you show some differentiator that makes you unique and really makes your P&L attractive, you are not fundable. So
all right.
I think I just answered all your questions.
Yes, I think so. All right. So just one more. I think it answered all my questions. So do you think 1M, if we go to the 1M and 1M by 1M premium program, in our particular scenario, how will that be able to help us? If you can share some words on that.
I will, if you join 1M, I will absolutely, be advising you and showing you ways of how to build this business in a technology-enabled services model. Not a pure physical services company, and that is the only way you will have any chance at fundability. Otherwise, you will not have a chance at fundability. So if you join 1M, join with that expectation that you will have to have that as your primary, motivation is to turn this into something that is highly differentiated and something that is going to attract funding because it is highly differentiated. Otherwise, if you're going to try to just do another event management company, I don't think there's any point for you to join 1M.
All right, I understand that. Thanks for the feedback.
So if you do join, we will definitely coach you how to become differentiated and how, what are the blocks that would add to that and that fundability and all of these things we can take into account.
All right, that would be great.
All right. Okay, folks, so I will explain to you how we work in 1M. If you haven't been through one of these explanations, I suggest you hang on and I will take you through that. But before we do that, I have a request to make, which is if you like what we're doing here, and as I said, this is our 258th session. We've had thousands and thousands of people in these programs over the years. Please refer 1M to serious entrepreneurs. And the serious word is very important because, we're not looking for fly-by-night entrepreneurs who expect to make money in 6 months. That's just not how this business works. It takes many years and intense, heavy lifting to build a company. And we are looking for entrepreneurs who have the tenacity and the mindset to do that. So in terms of resources, everything is at 1mby1m.com. You will find a free and extremely rich blog that delivers on 3 accounts. It informs on industry trends, it educates on mechanics, and it inspires through hugely interesting role model case studies. And that's kind of the way we have built this blog. It's rich, it's deep. It's not something that is, light reading. So the whole program is for serious entrepreneurs. And our focus is technology and technology-enabled services. That is where all the, if you look at money, if you look at customer money, investor money, all of that is kind of circling around the technology and technology-enabled services industry. And that's where our focus is as well. There are other sectors where there is interest and innovation like, space travel, like biotech, like electric cars and so forth, clean tech, water desalination. This is not our focus. Our focus is information technology. and information technology-enabled services. So other than the blog, you can also look at the Entrepreneur Journeys book series, of which we have 12 books so far. And these are, again, case study-based learning does the same thing. It informs, it educates, and it inspires through role model case studies. And you will learn a lot. It's just the experience of reading an Entrepreneur Journeys book is like sitting and having coffee with somewhere between 12 to 16 entrepreneurs. And that is not something most of you get to do on a day-to-day basis, especially not with the level of people that we have been able to capture in these stories. This is what our website looks like. You'll have lots of information on the website. These sessions, the free roundtables, happen every Thursday, pretty much every week. We've had, actually now we are approaching 30,000 people who have attended these sessions. If you want to pitch at one of these roundtables, please go to the free public roundtable page on the website and register to pitch or to attend. The sessions tend to fill up in terms of pitch slots. We typically only have about 3 slots for this kind of pitches and strategy discussions. So definitely book your slot, and Maureen will definitely try to find you a slot. Then we have the premium program, which is a $1,000 annual membership fee. And in there, we offer extensive methodology guidance through our curriculum. And we also do help you with business development. We help you with strategy consulting, these kinds of discussions, but much more in depth because you're doing it in tandem with the curriculum where we teach you the core principles that you need to learn. But we do have private sessions like these that are members-only sessions. We also help you with financing, and we help you with media relations. The $1 Million Club link on the website is going to give you a view into some of the successful members of the program. If you quantify the 1M1M value equation, it adds up to about $375,000 plus 5 to 10% equity worth of value for just $1,000 annual membership fee. We do not charge any equity in the program. So anybody can join, and you can join at any stage of your evolution. The earlier the better, because then we get to, structure things right before you run out of money and run out of resources. And we give you lots of orientation material on how to use 1M1M effectively. The analogy I use is 1M1M is like an entrepreneur gym. We give you lots of resources, but you're going to have to do the work to get in shape. And if you're not doing the work, you will really not be able to get a lot of value out of the program. And that's a requirement. The 1M1M self-assessment is a set of questions that you should ask yourselves. These are questions that investors would ask you, and I recommend that you ask yourselves just to calibrate your business against, industry standard practices. And these are things that you need to know about your business, and these are knowledge gaps that you need to plug. We will help you plug all of those knowledge gaps if you're in the program. So there's lots of information about the premium program, what to expect, video FAQs, etc., which you can study, and that will help you decide whether you want to be in this program or not. This program is not for everybody. It is a self-learning program largely, so you're going to have to be self-motivated, and if you expect spoon feeding, that's not going to be available. This is we've priced it very low, so that's and we've created a structure that can sustain that kind of price point. So that's just the nature of the program. The curriculum is structured in case studies and video lectures. We have had over 600 entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, over 50 entrepreneurs who have built billion-dollar companies, over 350 who have built very highly valued companies, lots of venture funding, etc., and then a lot of bootstrapped entrepreneurs who have also been successful. We've brought all these people to the forum to share their journeys, their lessons from the trenches, what their advice is to you on different topics and different dimensions of the entrepreneurial journey so that you can learn from them. And that is what powers the curriculum, and that is what makes the curriculum so powerful and so effective, that you get to learn from people who have done it before you. Our methodology is lean, capital-efficient, bootstrap startups. And whether or not you raise funding later on, this is an absolute requirement of your journey. You're going to have to bootstrap the early stage and get to validation before investors are willing to fund the company. But if you do that, if you follow that methodology, we have case study after case study. And in fact, if you go to the 1M1M Roundtable's channel on YouTube, you will find lots of guests, roundtable guests in prior sessions who have iterated on that message that they have built their businesses by bootstrapping first. And then, very recently we had Therese Tucker, who bootstrapped and has now built a company that is approaching unicorn levels, billion-dollar valuation. Fred Luddy was recently, Fred Luddy is the founder of ServiceNow. Company is today valued at $12 billion in the public market. So, but again, it's bootstrap first, raise money later story. And that is pretty much the principle that we follow in the 1M1M program. We will help you with a lot of media reach. We have ability to get the word out, both through mainstream media and social media. The work we do in the media gives us huge amounts of channels and access to get your word out. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, blog, all kinds of things that we have access to that will help you get the word out. And we will do that for you. Now, if you're trying to build a community somewhere in the world, entrepreneur community, you're welcome to partner with the 1M1M program. We both have a very interesting affiliate program where we give generous commissions, and also we have an incubator in a box program, which I'll tell you about in a moment. Our upcoming free roundtables all through May, we have roundtables, so please book your slot. Vision India 2020 is a book that I wrote several years ago that basically outlines $45 billion ideas, and it's written as business fiction, as if we are sitting in 2020 looking back on the process of building these businesses. So it's an ideation and strategy book. If you haven't yet decided what you're going to work on, this is a book that will stir a lot of thought processes, neurons in your head that will help in that ideation process, is my belief. The 1M1M Incubator in a Box is a program that we work with corporations on to develop their corporate incubation programs. So it could be intrapreneurship, it could be ecosystem development, but this is a program that we're using with many of the major corporations. And once again, the recent Entrepreneur Journeys books are Billion Dollar Unicorns, Carnival in the Cloud, E-commerce and Web 3.0, bootstrapping using a paycheck, and then from e-commerce to Web 3.0. Depending on what your area of interest is, you're welcome to look at these. And then, unfortunately, we're kind of out of time. So if you very quickly want to ask questions, I will take questions from the public chat, actually, maybe. We don't have a lot of time for call-in. So if you want to ask something in public chat, if you desperately want to call in, I will put back the call-in instructions. But otherwise, please use the public chat to ask some quick questions that are burning in your head, but we are out of time. Meanwhile, I'd like to introduce you to Irina Patterson. If you have questions about the 1M1M program, please email Irina at 1mby1m.com, and she'll be happy to get on the phone with you and answer whatever questions you might have. I see a question in the, okay, so I have a private question, which I don't want to take private questions right now, and you're saying that you're pitching next week anyway, so I'll look at your plan when you're pitching, and that's adequate. I don't need to spend time on that right now. Does anybody else have any questions that you would like to ask in public chat, not to me privately, but in the public chat?
Hi, everybody. This is Irina. Hi, SRAMANA.
Hi, Irina. I have a question from the public chat that I'd like to take. Stephanie Mountain is asking, can you revisit valuation? Valuation is a very large topic, so I don't think I can give you a tutorial on valuation right now. And we do cover valuation in the 1M program. So if you're part of the program, you will learn valuation in the program. Irina, did you want to add something? Did you want to talk about something? So Stephanie, your question, again, we address all that in the program, what it means, what is a reasonable valuation, what is not a reasonable valuation. Unfortunately, we are already 6 minutes over time, so I cannot take the time to go over that whole module here. It's, you know, it's a full module, of a full tutorial module, so I'm afraid I can't do that right now here. If you're trying to learn entrepreneurship, folks, I strongly recommend that you join the 1M program and you'll learn all of these nuances that you need to learn to be a successful entrepreneur. And that's what this program is all about. Thank you, Vinod. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Abhilash is asking, can we pitch in a project that's yet to come out as a PDT? What is a PDT? If you use acronyms that are not standard acronyms, I'm afraid I cannot answer. Product, I see. Absolutely. We actually recommend that you don't build a product until you flesh out the business case for that product. So you can absolutely pitch concepts here, no problem at all. And in fact, you should join the 1M program ideally before you build a product, because there is a lot of things, a lot of validation work that goes in before you actually release a product. And if you don't do that validation work, that business case building work, then you often build products, you waste 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months in building a piece of software that doesn't have any viability as a business. And we don't want you to waste valuable years of your life doing stuff like that. Anybody else? Quick questions, comments, issues? Please do not ask for tutorials right now. This is not the right time for asking for tutorials. But if you have quick questions, like what Abhilash just asked, that's fine. That's a very good question, no problem. All right, folks, we'll be back here next week with another guest and another set of mentoring programs. So please feel free to book your slot, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for coming today. I hope you enjoyed the program. Bye, everybody.